Good evening, Malden, and welcome to the Malden Zone. I'm David Arcangeloe here tonight with Joe Piantedosi, who we're waiting for momentarily. It's great to be with you tonight. We have a few announcements that we'd like to make first. First one is, let me hold this one up here, the Northern Strand Community Bike Trail is going to be having a meeting. I want to be sure to get you out to that. That's coming up on Saturday, March 2nd from 9 to 1, Linden Steam Academy. So we'll show that again throughout the course of the show. Also, we have a special education resource fair that's coming up on April 6th. So if you know of anybody who has children with special needs, you want to be sure to tell them about this. It's, again, coming up April 6th. It's going to be from 10 to 2 at the Lincoln School Cafeteria. It's put together by the Malden CPAC, which is the Special Education Parents Advisory Council. You can find out more at maldenpac.org. That's a good event coming up. And what else? This Friday morning, I will be reading books at the Forestdale School as part of the Read Across America project. So I'm happy to take part in that. So again, good evening. Welcome. It's David Arcangeloe here in the Malden Zone. We're waiting for our co-host, Joe Piantedosi, to come. So we're going to be talking about some of the things happening in Malden now, some news and events and things that are going on throughout the city. I know it's been a busy couple of weeks here going on with a lot of things with the ballpark, for baseball, the Field of Dreams, and for the stadium, that was a big issue. The football, that's still in progress here. So, you know, City Council has been busy doing some work. I know the mayor recently had his State of the City address. So another thing is the City Council, we're in the process of hiring a new treasurer for the City of Malden. We're also in process of getting a new police chief. We just recently had a new fire chief named, Jack Colangeli. Congratulations, Jack. So there's a lot going on in the City of Malden. And with us now is our host, Joe Piantedosi.
David,
Joe,
right,
welcome.
Nice. I'm not plugging in. Little altercation in the
Good to see you.
Good to see you today. A little problem in the parking lot outside, but everything's fine. Thank you for being here.
Sure.
Take care.
We just started with a couple of announcements
now,
here.
I just heard something. Well, I'm Joe Piantedosi, host of the show. I'm sorry I'm late tonight. A little problem with the weather and the parking lot was a little bit of a problem. The new fire chief has been named.
New fire chief was named.
I was out of town for a while. When was that?
Jack Colangeli. I think that was last week.
Excellent.
Last week. It might have been in the beginning of this week, technically. So,
wow.
But congratulations to
He's a good
Jack.
guy.
Yeah,
Great.
he was a deputy chief for a while.
Absolutely.
So
he has the great restaurant too. So
yes, Jack's Restaurant.
okay.
Yeah,
excellent. Great. And what else? Now I heard you say a few other things.
So we've got the Northern Strand. Here, I'll hold it up so if you can see Francis. Northern Strand. It's the old Bike to the Sea, folks. They have an event going on at Saturday. So you want to be sure to get out to that. And then we have a couple of other things. There's going to be a special education resource fair happening on April 6th from 10 to 2 at the Linden School Cafeteria. It's put on by the Malden CPAC. You can go to maldenpac.org to find out more. And then this Friday morning I'm going to be reading books to some fourth graders over at Forestdale as part of the Read Across America project.
Excellent.
So looking forward to that.
Great to hear. And so now your council from which ward now?
At large, the whole city.
Okay.
Councilor at large, the whole city.
Okay. And re-election time is it when?
Yeah, this is a re-election year, so I'm going to be running again in November.
Okay.
Looking forward to that campaign this year.
Again, council at large then.
Again, councilor at large. Yeah.
Okay.
Every
Excellent.
2 years for councilor at large.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And then what other thing? Now, what's going on? I'll ask you a question.
Well, there's a lot going on. You know, I touched upon it. The ballpark, the Field of Dreams. That's still very much in process right now.
Is that the name of it, Field of Dreams? What is?
You know, I think it was at one point. I'm not sure if they tweaked it slightly. It's something like the baseball Field of Dreams or something to that effect.
Where do we stay in time frame with that?
Well, so to bring people up to speed, what's happened is the city and the MRA and the developer has worked with National Grid to work a lease on the National Grid's property. So that portion of the land that is needed to build the ballpark, that's been secured, that's been worked out, that deal's been done. So now the developer is working with the other parties that are on the other side of that, the auto parts, the L&L services, which is like automotive, and then the Colex, which is an auto body type of place. They're in negotiations right now, so I think hopefully that's moving forward well. I don't know too much about those negotiations.
How much space is there? Do you know acreage-wise?
Yeah, you know, I think the whole site is somewhere around 16 acres, if I have it right.
Wow.
I think it's around 16 or something, and there's like, I want to say like 9 or 10 where National Grid is, and I think it's like 6 or 7 on the other side where the other 3
Now, have there been any
parcels are.
preliminary drawings or any plan? I mean, as far as
Yeah, actually, you can go on the city website and
Okay.
see it. There are also, the developer has their own website. I think it might be like maldenfieldofdreams.com or something like that. But you can see renderings of how it's going to be and how it's positioned. They basically have home plate. So if your back is to the Malden MBTA,
Commercial Street.
you know that corner
Okay.
will home plate will be. So it'll be looking out towards New England Coffee, like the
Okay.
straightaway center would be like New England Coffee, where they
Excellent.
have their
Oh, and now and parking, garage.
yeah, parking. Yeah,
underground, or-
I think what they're planning to do is the 2 garages downtown right now primarily are commuters.
Right.
I think the large majority of people that use those garages are commuters.
Mm-hmm.
So they're filled from 6, 7 a.m. in the morning until 5, 6 o'clock at night.
Right.
And I think the thought is with the baseball that the games will be starting early evening,
Right.
so the garages will be clear out of all the commuters by then, so they'll be able to utilize the garages. And also, I think it's proximity to the T. I think that's
Right.
one of the reasons why it's such an attractive site.
Do they plan on putting more parking now, or not?
That's a
no?
good question. I think that's still a little bit to be determined, because
Mm-hmm.
certainly we wouldn't want it to spill over into other places that we don't want it, like
Right.
neighborhoods which they're pressed for parking anyways,
Correct.
or some of the business zones where if you're a business, you want that for your customers right
Exactly.
there.
Exactly.
You don't want somebody parking there for 3 hours, going away, and then
Right.
coming back. That's some challenge that we have downtown now, even going with that. So.
Yeah. And another question. Now, is it all open air? Or is it going to be anything enclosed as far as the?
Yeah, I think some of the concourse will be enclosed. I
Mm-hmm.
think they're going to have some of the concessions will be underneath. But for the most part, I think it's open air.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 6,000 seats, I think, somewhere
Oh, wow.
around there.
And also other venues other than baseball, or
Yeah, I think it's 60-something game season, I want to say. I want to say it's like 62 or 68 games or something like that. And I think they're looking forward to other events, too. So maybe some concerts,
Concerts,
and but also some community events, too. I think
Sure.
that's a big part of, certainly as a council, one of the things I'm looking forward to is making sure that Malden High would get to play there. Maybe we could have some tournament games there. We could have things like graduation or
Right,
other big
charity
events.
events, sure.
Yeah, charity events, other big city events. And I think the developer has indicated that they're going to work with the city on
the
that.
name of the team that we're playing. What's the name of the team?
I think they're actually running a contest or
Okay.
something. I'm not sure if that's set in stone yet, but one of the presentations they made in front of the actually in front of the whole city was about a month ago, I think, up in the council chamber. And one of the things that they referenced was that they were going to open that up and give people a chance to say, hey, what's our mascot going to be?
Right,
What's
right.
our branding going to be?
Right.
And I think they're looking at like the Atlantic League,
Okay.
Independent League baseball.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
That's good to hear. Now, tell the viewers, if you don't mind, a little bit about David Arcangeloe. Where you grew up in Malden? Are you a Maldonian?
Yeah, so sure, I'll give the rundown. So I was born in Malden. My family was from Malden. My brother graduated Malden High, and my family had long roots in Malden. So I lived here till I was 4 years old. Was delivered up at the Malden Hospital by my uncle Frank Stella, whose son is the famous painter.
Oh, wow.
So I was delivered at Malden Hospital, lived here till I was 4. Then we moved to Melrose. So I went through Melrose Public Schools.
Okay.
And then when I got married, actually about 6 months before I got married, I bought a house here in Malden and moved back. That was 1996. And I've been here ever since. So was over on Daniel Street in a 3-family over there where we, my wife and I renovated it, lived on the first floor, and rented out the other 2. And then I moved over to Bainbridge Street.
Oh, wow. Is your wife from Malden?
My wife is not from Malden. My wife is from Melrose.
Okay. So you met her in Melrose?
I met her at Melrose, yeah.
And you have kids? Right?
Not in high school, though. She's a year ahead of me. I didn't really know her in high school,
So-
ironically. Yes, we have a daughter. Daughter Isabella.
How old is Isabella?
She's 12.
Okay. I
Yeah.
have a son who's 14.
Okay, great.
So Isabella must be, what, in 6th grade, right? 6th or
Yeah.
She's 6, yeah. Jared's in 8th. He'll be leaving middle school in Winchester and then going on to the high school. So now, I know you've always liked politics. I know that.
Yeah, well, I think the first time maybe we met is when I worked in the governor's office. I worked for Governor Salucci, and then I went on to work in the state senate for Richard Tassay, our former state senator.
Exactly.
And from that, I really kind of got involved. But politics is in my blood. My dad was actually an alderman over in Melrose. and he was clerk of the state's appellate tax board for
Right.
28 years. So he had served 6 different governors, and he was really a political guy. So I went to my first public meeting when I was 8 years old,
Wow.
worked on my first political campaign when I was 10.
No kidding.
So it's really kind of been in my blood the whole way. And, then working for Richard Tassay, moving to Malden. Richard Howard, our former mayor, put me on the planning board, so I served the city that way. And then I had an interest and said, let's see if we can make a difference here on city council. Sat down with my wife and some supporters, and they said, go for it. So I ran in '09 and came up a little short. I was 4th, and it was just out of the running there. But then I ran again, and I was able to break through. So,
Excellent.
and here I am.
So this is your first full term,
It's my first full term.
2-year term. So
2-year
it
term.
comes up in November. So you
Yeah.
run again, which is great. Now, so Melrose High, you graduated.
Melrose High, 88, class of 88.
Okay, youngster. And then where'd you go to?
And then I went to Suffolk University.
Excellent.
Suffolk University, where actually I teach now. I'm a professor associate professor or adjunct faculty, whatever they call it, of communication and journalism up there. I teach professional communication.
Excellent.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that. I think this is either my 4th year or 5th year, something around there. Probably, I think I'm on my 10th or 11th class
What was
or
your
something.
major at Suffolk?
Communication and journalism. So my major was broadcasting.
Wow.
If I had hair and looks like you, Joe, I think I'd still be on. I think I'd be on television
Yes,
full
you're very
time.
good. You're very good at it, which is good. So let me ask you. So it's almost like welcome back, Harder, because you're going back to where
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
And,
And I'm fortunate enough to work with our great producer here, Francis, on doing
You're on the board
Around
here.
Town.
You're on the board at the.
I'm not on the board of MATV,
okay,
but I
gotcha.
do Around Town and point into my
Excellent.
our show, picture of our show over
And
there.
when does that air?
That airs Thursday and Sunday. Thursday evenings and Sunday afternoons, I
Do you
believe.
take that on the road? I'm not that.
No, we do it here in Studio
Right
B. Last month we had Steve Crosby, chair of the State Gaming Commission.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, before that we had Catherine Clark. A month before that I think we had Sheriff Katujian, State Senator Catherine Clark, and then before that Sheriff Katujian, Paul Donato. We've had,
So once a month.
yeah, generally once a month.
Excellent.
Generally
Great.
once a month.
Great.
So busy with that. Busy with the Rotary, as you know.
Yeah,
Doing that. I'm
Rotary.
president of Rotary this year.
This year, president. So, and how many classes do you teach?
This semester I'm teaching 1. Last semester I taught 2.
Okay.
This semester I'm teaching 1 class.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I do that, and I do my consulting, public relations consulting.
Well, that's great. I just didn't know that about that. This is
Yeah.
all nice.
Yeah.
Nice thing. That's great. You've got a very good presence on
Well,
the
thank you,
with
Joe.
communication.
Appreciate that.
So, let me see now. I'm going to let you discuss anything you'd like to discuss.
Well, so there's a lot going on in Malden with the ballpark's one thing, the prospect of getting the minor league football here, the pro football is another thing. There's a lot going on with
that.
appointments.
Where's that?
That's being proposed over at McDonald Stadium, and I think that's still in process right now. So hopefully that can be, the neighborhood can be, their concerns can be addressed, and I think it's going back and forth right now in terms of making sure that the neighborhood can be have their concerns addressed, and the ownership can get what they need to make sure it's a good endeavor for them. So I think that's in process right now. We have a lot going on in terms of appointments. One of the things I was mentioning as you were coming in, we're right now we just did final interviews for the treasurer. We're going to be getting a new treasurer for the city of Malden, which we haven't had for a while. And the new fire chief was just named. We're also going to be, there's a search committee out for the police chief as well, ongoing. So there's a lot of leadership right now in the city of Malden.
New pope, too, we're looking forward to.
A new pope.
Not here in Malden, but.
New pope.
Although
I heard Cardinal O'Malley is being considered.
Yeah, I was actually, it's pretty funny. I just came back from Florida. I was down there for about 10 days, and it was on local news in Florida and national
Oh,
news
really? That he was being considered?
Yeah,
Wow.
I was surprised to see
Wow.
that. And,
Wow. That would be great. That would be
well, I
great
don't know
for
if they'd choose an American. I mean, I think
Yeah, I don't know. When's the last time?
there's never
never been,
Well, there were
huh?
only Italians up. Well, many years ago there were non-Italians, but there were Italians up until Pope John Paul
Okay, yeah.
II,
Yeah.
and then of course Pope Benedict. is
So maybe
German.
it's time.
I think they have a fear that America and the President of the United States is going to take over the Catholic. I don't know. I just think it goes way back. But I think I read an article that was interesting. They said that there's 217 cardinals. No, I'm sorry, 117 cardinals.
Throughout the world.
Yeah, throughout the world, and every one of them, okay, is angling to be cardinal. Would love to be pope.
Yeah.
Except for one. That's Cardinal O'Malley.
Oh, really?
And that might make
him the guy then. Yeah.
He's
wow, that's
claimed
interesting.
and professed, and the others, I guess I would love to be a fly on the wall and just see how the intricate ins and outs occur during this selection process and everything. And
are you a churchgoer regularly?
Yes, I am. I'm Catholic, born Catholic, raised
likewise,
Catholic.
Likewise,
and, active with my church. My son is in CCD, he's an altar server.
Oh, great. Okay.
I went to BC. I went to public schools, but 4 years at BC, and it was funny going to BC. I remember as a kid, you got forced to go to church if your parents make you. And then I may have dipped off a little bit, and then I think maybe it was a good excuse to get out of the house with a date on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday and go. And I did that for a while, between middle school and high school. And then I was surprised when I went to BC how many students were like daily churchgoers, and these were like big, rough, tough guys that were on the football team, the hockey team. I happened to live in Roncalli, a dorm with all athletes. And I was amazed at the amount of kids, guys,
that would just go
daily mass.
Yeah. And willingly, exactly. Not because they had to.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, I guess, had grown up in parochial schools, but it kind of impressed me. And do I go every week? I try, not every week. I mean, if sometimes life, unfortunately, is difficult. I remember.
Sure.
It's funny. My son at 14 can't even fathom a world, and I'm older than you. Where I remember growing up, Sundays, nothing was open.
Yeah,
you
sure.
Work.
The blue laws.
Exactly.
I had this conversation with one of the counselors last night. I try to explain that to my students at Suffolk, and it's a foreign concept to them. They went, what do you mean stuff was closed? Like, what was closed? I was like, everything was closed. The stores were closed. You couldn't.
And you'd get up and you'd go to mass in the morning, and you'd eat an early big dinner.
Yeah.
With
it was all family. It was all family.
Exactly. And now that's like never happens.
Yeah.
It's just it's funny how society changes.
Massachusetts has changed so much. I mean, I don't know about you, but I can tell you, growing up in grade school, the people in my homeroom their last name was Downing and Denning, and people whose great grandparents came off the Mayflower.
Exactly.
And they might have been like they were the Blue Dog Democrat types. They might have been Democrats, but they were very conservative Democrats. They were Yankee thrift, self-reliance, that type of thing. And a lot of those people have unfortunately either passed on or moved away.
Exactly.
And what's replaced them is a new breed of people in Massachusetts, which I really believe has changed the dynamic of our state.
Totally multicultural now, and very, I find, education driven. I mean, I live in Winchester. We board at Lexington, where I live, and it just seems like everyone there is into some either technology, that's their profession, or education, or
healthcare,
and Asians, mostly Asians, and you don't see the Clarks and the Smiths,
like it was when we were growing up. It's a little different. So
funny you mentioned one thing which is interesting is you talk about the old Democrats, and I know you're a Republican.
I'm a Republican,
and
one of the few.
You're proud to wave the banner. Sometimes it's considered a dirty word, especially in Massachusetts, and especially in Malden.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I'll talk to people all the time, and I'll say, "Why are you a Democrat?" If you're a Democrat, well, my father was, my grandfather was.
There you go. Yeah.
And they'll make comments like, it's we're working class people, and we're not affluent. No, this is why we're Democrats, and the Democrats are for the people, and all this. And you could say the same about the Republican Party, but the Democratic Party, for certain, has changed so much, I think.
Right.
And people that love JFK, and he was a great president. God knows what would have happened if he lived.
Oh, sure. We all wish that never happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And but and I keep on going back to his famous quote. Okay, ask not what you can do for your country. Ask what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Right. And
that's so opposite of what the Democratic, motto is today.
Yeah.
And I just think it's really funny that people say, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican because my family always was.
Yeah.
And I think you really need to look into the party and maybe even the term party and all this partisanship has to stop. I mean,
it totally does. One of the interesting aspects, you bring up a really good point, and one of the ways I like to look at it is, so oftentimes here in Massachusetts, people try to link the voters and the general public try to link Republicans here in Massachusetts to the national party.
Right, right.
And I mean, Massachusetts Republicans could be the furthest thing from Republicans nationally.
Absolutely.
We can't, you can't even get a call back from them, and not that you necessarily even want to, but the similarities aren't many, particularly on the social issues.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, gay marriage, I have no issue with gay marriage at all, right? You know, and a lot of those social issues, I really don't have much. It's when it comes to the fiscal issues that I'm conservative and want to make sure that we're maximizing the revenues that are coming in, and you know, smaller government so we can be as efficient as possible. Those are the ideals I believe in here in Massachusetts. But on the national level, you've got this gridlock where all they do is fight back and forth. And look at Congress's approval rating. I think it's in the teens.
Exactly.
It's really a shame that they can't work together in a little bit better way.
It's true. It's totally true. And it's funny, you know, and I'll talk about the Democratic agenda too, which bothers me, is the taxing. You know, of course. And when Obama ran for re-election, he made no bones about he would raise taxes, and of course Mitt was saying he wasn't going to raise taxes. So now people
and now with the sequester, he wants more taxes.
Correct. And people, I heard, and I saw it in business. All of a sudden, January 1st hit, and people's checks were less because of the extra taxes that kicked in, and there's more coming, and all this, and. The funny thing is, you hear about the Democrats, and now they're saying they're going to tax. And they need more revenue, but you don't hear about the cuts. And if you ask a Democratic politician about cuts, they'll talk about cutting the police, cutting the fire.
They go instantly to the worst things.
Right,
yeah,
Medicare
I know.
And hurting the elderly and shutting off street lights.
When that's not the way. Republicans aren't for that.
And there are so many, just like this welfare fraud that was going on. How many millions of dollars was spent?
Oh, the leakage that Governor Patrick was talking about? Yeah.
But there are so many of those things, and I've said this on the air many times. When I first time I went to D.C., and I was shocked. I mean, I always thought in my mind, okay, there's the White House, and there's Congress, there's the Senate building, and I remember being in a bus. It was a school bus, and just looking at building after building, Department of Agriculture, Department of things I'd never even heard of.
Sure.
And jam filled with people.
And that's all it is.
And
people and paper.
Right, and that's where
we're paying for all of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And if somebody, I mean, I just wish that somebody, that went in there with a sharp pencil.
Yes. And
just made some cuts. And
so much of it is about education and about apathy. I mean, look at it right now. Really, now whether you were for Obama, who won, or for Romney, who didn't win, at the end of the day, really what it comes down to is 1 in 6 Americans decide who leads us.
Right.
1 in 6.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thinks, oh, it's half. It's not half. Right. It's half of the people who are eligible and registered to vote who then actually vote.
Yeah,
so when it boils down to it, it's really only 1/6 of the population deciding who the president will be. So, if you could get back by the apathy, if you look back to if you go far enough back, the early 1900s to when it peaked in the 50s, it was not uncommon for local elections to see a turnout of 60%, 70%, sometimes even more. Now, the only time you even approach those numbers is once every 4 years during a presidential election. And the way the presidential election is set up, which I don't agree with the Electoral College, is now it's only boiled down to these 10 swing states. That's pretty much the only place these candidates campaign. All the rest of the states they either use just to take money out or they use for props to be able to, for some example that they're trying to prove. So the way it's evolved really is not good right now. Our system, particularly federally, is pretty broken. It's pretty broken. And until we can get enough people to realize that and have an outcry, you would think it would happen with the economy. I mean, we owe $16.5 trillion right now. And at any point in time, the creditors that own our bonds could come calling. And I would hate to know what would happen if push ever actually came to shove. And I don't think that's talked about enough in the media, to tell you the truth, because we have this false sense of security, like everything's going to be okay, and we keep kicking the can down the road. The interest on the debt alone is $54 billion a month.
Wow.
That's the interest alone on the debt.
Wow.
So I mean, if you look at that, I mean, it's just.
And the interesting thing is, it's plain and simple. You run a household, and you know everyone likes to have everything in the household, but you have to sit down and budget.
You have to budget.
And okay, this is what comes in, this is what has to go out, and this is disposable income here, and you know, okay, we need food, and if things are tight, you know, you don't get filet mignon or lobster. But you don't starve. I mean, you have to eat something, and you're not gonna eat, you know, grain or dog food or you know.
One of the things in government, I've been in government. I've served in public service a good amount of my career, but I've also been in the private sector and had an opportunity to run a business, and I own a business myself now. So I have the perspective from both sides, and only in government can an increase be viewed as a cut. Right. Like, look how they're talking now. They're saying, "Oh, the sequester, we're cut." No. We're still spending 3% more than we did last year. It's just not the 5% that we were scheduled to.
Right.
So it's the cut of 5%. And all of a sudden is a cut. No, it's not a cut. We're just only growing by 3%.
Exactly.
So you know that wouldn't work in your business.
No.
And show me a business or show me a household since 2008 hasn't had to cut their budget.
Absolutely.
Hasn't had to bring spending back and trim and look at how they can do things differently. Not government.
Right.
Government has continued to go up and up and up.
And there are frivolous things as a household, business, or the government that you can sit and you know, if money's tight at home, okay, you're not going to shut your heat off in the middle of the winter.
Right.
I mean, you eat. I mean, there's certain things you need, but you know what? Maybe you won't go out for dinner with your family once a week.
Yeah.
You know, maybe every other week. I mean, there's certain things, and you just have. Why doesn't the government do that? I just don't understand why they don't take the simple approach and just.
Yeah, it's a good question, you know, and I don't know right now why they're not with the sequester. I don't know why they're not giving. If I were Congress, I would get together and say, "Here, President, you have the ability to cut where you need. You're going to still cut." But it doesn't have to be across the board cuts like we're calling for. You can cut in targeted areas. This way it would take away the air traffic controllers that they're trying to bring up and all these other things that they're trying to bring up. Give them that ability, but it's politics, unfortunately. So it's disappointing. And fortunately, the local level is not like that. Fortunately, I think on the local level, we're doing a decent job of trying to make sure that we're maximizing services. But again, if the federal government runs out of money, which they are doing, make no mistake about it, we're borrowing 46 cents on every dollar. That's unsustainable. Sooner or later, that's going to come back and get us one way or the other. So once they run out of money, then that means the states are going to be impacted, which means the localities are going to be impacted. So it's not just one event that would happen. That would be a ripple throughout the whole government infrastructure, from the local to the state to the federal. So, you know, I think we're doing a good job here. We recently, one of the things I'm very pleased to be involved with last year during this session was we put a set aside. So now we made an ordinance that says the city of Malden has to have 7.5% of the money we spend in reserve each year. And we're hoping, we've been in contact, our city controller, Chuck Rannigan, did a nice job of that, working with the bond rating agencies to get us in line to improve our bond rating so that we can borrow more, we can pay lower interest on the money that we do borrow. So that'll save the city money, be able to maximize the money that we borrow and spend. So that's a positive thing. So we're taking steps in the right direction, I think, and trying to keep things somewhat modest, because we know that the economy's still not roaring, and these cuts are coming on the state and federal level.
The upcoming Senate special election, what's your take on it? What do you think? I mean,
yeah, so I think it's going to be interesting. I tell you the truth, I think Ed Markey's going to win. I do. I think he's going to win. He's got the most money. He's got the most established organization. I've worked with Steve Lynch in the Senate. He's a great guy. I know a good amount of his staffers. But I've also worked with Congressman Markey and his staff. So, you know, the two good candidates there. On the Republican side, I think you have some good candidates, but they face the challenges. They don't have the money or the resources, the machine, the name recognition. So they're gonna be in the underdog role, and they may be able to pull it off. I don't think so, though. It's probably unlikely. I would say that.
Who are the stronger candidates that you feel that like?
Yeah, on the Republican side, so far there's 3 announced. There's Michael Sullivan, he's the former U.S. District Attorney. Dan Winslow, who's a current state rep, and he's kind of an innovator in the party. and a newcomer, Gabriel Gomez, who's a former Navy SEAL and an investor, equity type of guy. All three attractive candidates.
How about Sean Bilot? I thought he was.
Bilot initially set up a committee. I don't think he ended up going forward though. I think one of the challenges, Joe, was you have to collect these signatures. Yeah, 10,000.
20,000.
Well, 20,000 probably raw, but you need 10,000 good ones in a very short period of time. I mean, that's a challenge to do during the normal cycle, let alone having to do it in a month, and which is what they're up against. So at the end of the day, I think on the Democrat side, you'll have Markey and Lynch, and I think Markey probably wins that primary, 55-45 or 60-40 or something like that. Republican side, you have Sullivan, Winslow, Gomez. That's a little bit of up in the air. I would say it would probably be between Sullivan and Winslow, only because they're a little bit more established and they have some name recognition. Winslow lent his campaign $100,000, so he probably has a little bit of a leg up there. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, for the Republicans, it's probably not going to work, so it'll probably be Markey.
Were you surprised that Scott Brown opted not to run?
I was a little surprised with his timing, not so much with the decision. I did think that he would probably announce earlier to give other candidates a little bit more time. But you know what? Hey, it's a very personal decision to run, and it shouldn't be taken lightly to run. And he just came off of 2 elections. You know, the first one against Coakley, where he had to gear up really quick, and he basically campaigned, for a year and a half straight, even through his service there, and then to run again, and he came relatively close. You would have thought it would have been a little closer, but because of that presidential turnout, that particular demographic, he just couldn't get it going. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he runs for governor.
You think so?
I've heard rumors that he's strongly considering that. I would think he would be, instantly credible doing that, because he's still
Baker. You don't think Baker would?
Well, I think Baker wants to, but if Brown wants to do it, I see Baker probably deferring, only because Scott Brown is still very popular in all the polls. And his name recognition is very high. So, but maybe they have a primary. Who knows?
Taking this role on as a Fox commentator, is that going to hurt him or help him?
Well, I don't know. I think in some ways it helps him because it keeps his profile out there, and maybe he gets to round himself out and explain some of the votes he took. So in that way, it helps him. And another way, it hurts him because Fox News is linked with conservatives and Republicans, and let's face it, Massachusetts isn't that type of state. So. I see pros and cons there. At the end of the day, I think those probably cancel each other out, because that's usually like the insider baseball stuff. I still believe that elections are pretty much decided by the unenrolled, the independent-minded people out there. I still believe that on the local, state, and federal level, people vote the person, not the party. And they want to vote for somebody with ideas, and they want to vote for somebody that they find trustworthy and to have integrity.
Have you met our senior senator yet? Our current senior senator.
I got to see her a couple of different times campaigning over the summer in Boston. I actually shook her hand a couple of times. Very nice woman, very, very engaging type of personality, very comforting type of personality. I can see the attraction by voters there. Wish her well, Not sure I was a Scott Brown supporter, but wish her well, and I think she'll probably do a good job. I'm sure they being the Democrats, probably have intentions for her to serve on some committees that they want to advance an agenda. I know she was very active with like the credit cards and the banking regulations and things like that. So I'm sure they're going to want to see reform out of her in those types of things.
Richard Tassay, have you spoken to him?
Yes, my former boss. I've spoken with Richard, and he came close in the election against Tierney.
We thought he was going to. We all thought he had it. It was just amazing that he did.
Had it not been for the cities of Lynn and Salem, he probably would have been able to pull it out. But again, he's another one that the demographic that comes out in those presidential years is in a state like Massachusetts, where it's overwhelmingly Democrat, you get an overwhelmingly Democrat turnout. And as a result, that hurt him and helped Tierney. So, I think he'll probably run again. I think he'll probably give it another shot, and as well he should. He came close.
Congress?
Congress, the same seat he just ran for.
Because the speculation he was going to run for Senate, and he decided not to.
Yeah, again, I think we're with the condensed time frame.
It's 2 elections, because if you have the good fortune of winning the primary, and getting it's actually 3 because you have to win the primary
and then run again, basically. Yeah.
And then a year later,
you got to run again.
So it's a lot.
It's a big endeavor.
It would have been a lot of campaigning.
You could basically say that Scott Brown would have had to run 5 elections in 6 years.
Right.
Statewide elections. I mean, that's a monumental endeavor.
Expense,
it really takes a lot out of you.
Taxing of time and energy.
Absolutely.
And your family and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot going on politically. We'll see. This year there's races here in the city as well. So
what races in here?
The councilors, so all the ward councilors and the at-large councilors, there's races.
So no, there's 2 at-large councilors?
3 at-large and 1 in each ward, and we have 8 wards. So there's 11 councilors total.
Okay, so the council at-large are you, Craig Spatafor, and Greg...
And Greg Lucy, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're all running, I guess, for re-election?
I'm
hoping.
Have
people announced?
I don't think so. I'll announce right now that I'm running for re-election.
Okay.
I mean,
right here in the show.
we can break news here. I would imagine they would be, but you'd have to talk to them. I would hope so. I mean, I enjoy serving with
anybody
them.
You know in the city of Malden that doesn't plan on running for?
No, I can't say as I do. I really haven't had those conversations. I think we've been really focused on the issues at hand. And for this council, I think, we've had some really healthy debate going back and forth. We don't agree on everything, but I don't think you should agree on everything, right? I've been married to my wife for 16 years. We don't always agree, but at the end of the day, we end up, going in the same bed together.
At the end of the day, you no, I'm teasing. It all gets erased. Sometimes it lasts a couple of days, I find, but that's fine.
Right.
It doesn't get resolved necessarily that same day. So no one is not running. Do you know anyone that is decided to throw their hat in the ring? Any particular?
No, really, I haven't heard of anybody. But then again, I've been really focused on the work for the city and trying to get papers passed. And
now the Republican Party, you were very involved with the Republican committee.
I mean, there's so few Republicans, so there's only 5% registered Republicans. Atakan's one of them. So I'm chairman of the city committee, and I really believe that people appreciate that. If you go back to civics that you took in junior high or high school or grammar school, our system of government was meant to work with more than one party. Yep. Checks and balances happen within the party as well, within the parties as well. So again, I go back to people vote the person, not the party, and these are nonpartisan elections that we have here in Malden. Yeah. So, I'm pretty much moderate anyways. I'm the compassionate conservative where I believe that that government does have a role in serving people who can't help themselves, particularly the disabled and the sick and the poor and the elderly and, people that really do need a hand up, So I believe in the hand up, not the handout type of thing. And, so there is a role there to play. However, I do think that we've kind of lost our direction, particularly with the borrowing. We just can't keep spending like we're spending. We have a debt problem. I mean, we're paying more on our debt per month than 40 of the state's budgets for the whole year. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts budget for the whole year is about $30 billion. And our debt service a month is like $54 billion a month or something like that for the country. So, I mean, that's just completely out of whack. We can't keep borrowing 46 cents on every dollar. And much of it that's being borrowed is being borrowed from these unstable countries that we don't like and that have bad policies. And so, we really need to change that practice. And whether it's reducing foreign aid, reducing the defense budget, or cleaning up some of the domestic programs, whatever the case may be, we've got to cut somewhere. There's only so much money. And it's just not an endless supply. Right. We're just taxing our kids' futures. All we're doing is kicking the can down the road, and at some point, that's going to stop.
Yep. I hear you. So let's switch to sports. I mean, are you
big sports fan?
Okay.
Patriots fan.
Well, the Patriots,
Tom Brady just re-signed, so that's good news.
There, but this year
Finished
was a
his
little
career.
Disappointing. Great year until.
A little disappointed, but we can't be that spoiled.
Right.
You look at some places like Cincinnati. I have friends in Cincinnati who, they were excited. They made the playoffs for the first time,
So when you get that close, that's the sad thing. The Celtics, it looks like they might have a whole new team next year.
Yeah, the NBA is interesting though, where you can't cut players and bring new players on as fast as you'd want. So it's longer term in the NBA, I think.
And the
Bruins look like they have a great shot again. A shortened season here. We'll see what happens.
And of course, a whole new Red Sox team with new management.
Yeah, and anything can happen in baseball.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I thought it was interesting today that they're having a hard time with their season ticket holders and filling the seats. I think that sellout streak will end.
Well, that was a joke.
It was a little phony, a little inflated anyways, yeah.
I learned something. Actually, while I was away, I didn't even know this was happening. The Red Sox hired Pedro Martinez to be a...
yeah, I saw that. I saw. Oh, and you know who we had today at Rotary? A great guest. We had Dave Chiazzo.
Well, no kidding.
Malden's, you know, great guy,
Sure.
and unbelievable athlete. You know, he pitched in the pros and was a scout for a number of years, and he wrote a book, a great book about how, what is it, when life throws you a curve, and it's about how he dealt with diabetes and being a professional athlete at the same time. So, great story. I didn't know that whole backstory.
Right.
So, great story.
Is he still in Malden? I know Steve, his brother Steve.
I think he still lives in Malden. I think he does travel, though, Dave.
Yeah.
He was saying, and Steve was a great athlete, too. He was talking about his brother played pro ball. They had Kais, yeah. So we had a nice presentation from him.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it was good.
And Rotary, anything new and exciting with the Rotary?
Rotary, we've got our annual road race coming up. Anybody who wants to take part, you can go to maldenrotaryroadrace.com. And Joe, thank you for helping out again. We really appreciate it. Last year, everybody got, all the runners who came to Malden got a great goodie bag. They got some Piantedosi rolls. They got some New England coffee.
Yeah.
They got some other Malden goodies in there. So
what's the date of the race?
It's going to be March 23rd, Saturday, March 23rd. So it's about a month away. Yeah, about a month away.
Day before Palm Sunday.
Day before Palm Sunday, yeah.
Excellent.
So it's going to be good. Last year we had 330 runners. This year it's our 10th anniversary, so we're hoping to get closer to 400 runners this year.
Wow.
And we have the 5K race and the 10K race.
Fantastic.
So so that's been going on. That's busy.
Excellent. I've been traveling a lot. I haven't been around, unfortunately, and I've been in Malden. Opened up a shop in Winchester, which I spend some of my time there, but also this is a busy time for me to travel. We do a lot of national business.
I was very impressed when you came to Rotary, realizing, you think Piantedosi and everybody, I think we take it for granted around here because we just see the rolls everywhere and you go to different restaurants and you recognize them. But you have national and international distribution.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that.
It's a thrill for me. I remember the first time I walked into a frozen distributor warehouse in the Bahamas, and there's our bread.
That's awesome.
With our logo and our name. It was very impressive.
It is very impressive.
My grandfather started, and I have something that I'm kind of excited about up and coming. I'm very involved with the Mass Restaurant Association.
Yes.
And we have our annual trade show, which is coming up less than 2 weeks, March 10th, 11th, 12th at the BCEC in Boston.
Okay.
And a great event. We do it in conjunction with the Seafood Show, which is a huge international event, brings people from all over the world. And it's a very busy weekend in the city of Boston that weekend. And I had the good fortune of getting the keynote speaker this year.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
And it's going to be Regis Philbin. And Regis...
Oh, okay. You got Regis. I thought you would be a good keynote speaker, but you got Regis.
I got Regis, but it's pretty funny because Regis... I got to meet Regis over the years. My college roommate from BC ended up working ABC in New York.
Okay.
Invited me many years ago, and I got to know I was the bread guy, as we just call me.
The bread guy.
So I reached out to him, and he's coming out to do the.
Wow, that's a huge score for you.
But even better, he had one stipulation: he would do it, but he wanted a person to do it with, because he doesn't. If you knew Regis, he had Kathy Lee.
He's always got a sidekick.
Right. And he said, I want to feel comfortable with the person. I want you to do it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I get to, and it's kind of a dream of mine because I get to sit and interview Regis.
Well, you do such a good job with this show.
It's fun. It's fun to do.
And over the years, I remember, as the chamber president, you did a great job in getting so many speakers there, whether it was Senator Kennedy, Harry Sinden.
Harry Sinden.
You got so many.
Cardinal Law.
Cardinal Law. There was a lot of great speakers in those breakfasts. Yeah.
So
good.
Anyway, so this is going to be Monday, March 11th. If you're in the restaurant, unfortunately, the show isn't open to the public.
Okay. So you got to be a restaurant guy.
You have to have some kind of
connection in the industry.
The Wing Coffee, they're very involved with the association as well, and a lot of the restaurant actually, who's on our board too, John Carlino from Exchange Street.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I'm actually so if you have any connection to the restaurant industry, you can go. You don't have to technically own a restaurant. and it's going to be Monday, March 11th at 1 p.m. But I'm going to have it videotaped, and I'm going to play it here. So
that'll be awesome.
One of the upcoming shows
Great.
in April.
That's great.
We're going to air it, so hopefully it goes off well, and it's fun, and he's a legend, and it's a thrill for me to.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's
That's
funny
gonna
because
be great.
we planned it back in September, and it seemed like it was eons away.
Oh, and here it is
and
now.
all of a sudden
It's right on top of you.
less than
Yeah.
2 weeks from now, so
That's great.
looking forward
That's
to that.
great.
What else is new and exciting to talk about? Just kind of happy the winter is phasing.
Oh, please!
out,
this
but
this
we're gonna get more
past
snow
storm.
coming though. So,
Yeah, a little bit more. Let's hope that's the tail end of it, and we're turning the corner here. I don't know if Punxsutawney Phil, did he see his shadow or not?
No, he did. He didn't, and I guess I'm sorry, he did. It's supposed to be a short. First time I've heard in forever.
That he did, so it's going to be shorter.
Spring.
Let's hope.
Well, now Easter's early, and that also makes people feel better. And,
Yes.
And you know what I find, at least in our business, but in most businesses, after Easter, things pick up. Usually, Christmas and the holidays, businesses thrive for the most part. January, February, especially here in the Northeast, everyone kind of, hunkers down and saves money or starts paying off their debt that they accumulated over the holidays.
Right. Some of it might be religious with the fasting and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then Easter happens, and
the weather gets nice. They need those calories to get out there. Yeah.
And people are out and about, and so the economy does better. So let's hope we've got April 1st on to celebrate the spring and summer season. So
I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the road race that we get good weather.
Yeah. So
let's hope. Let's hope for the best on that.
But so that's but I appreciate you coming out to do this. This is great. And Francis, we got you in the control room there. I want to thank you. Yeah, has his comment.
Francis is coming out. Should we plug these again, Joe?
Yeah, sure. We can talk about this because
we got the Northern Strand. They're having a meeting. If you're interested in the bike path, this used to be the Bike to the Sea group, affiliated with the Bike to the Sea group. But they have something going on this Saturday, March 2nd, from 9 to 1. So you can check that out. Be sure to check that out. And then also, anybody with children with special needs, you should be interested in a special education resource fair, which is going to be April 6th from 10 to 2 at the Linden School Cafeteria. And that's put on by the Malden CPAC. You can go to maldenpac.org. And then this Friday, I'll be reading books at the Forestdale School as part of Read Across America.
Fourth grade, which is
so great. I'm excited in that.
Are you a movie buff at all? Do you?
Yeah, well, I did. I got to see Zero Dark 30 and Lincoln.
Okay. I wanted to see Lincoln. I haven't seen Lincoln
I
yet.
thought Lincoln really should have got it.
Well, Daniel Day-Lewis got Best Actor.
He was phenomenal. He was phenomenal.
I mean, I couldn't believe how they.
He did, and I read the Halberstram book. I read Bill O'Reilly's book, Killing Lincoln. A couple of the other Lincoln books. And just as I pictured he would be, that was Daniel Day-Lewis.
Excellent. And Argo, you didn't see, right?
I didn't see Argo. My sister saw it, my wife saw it, a couple of my friends saw it, and they also saw Lincoln, and they liked Lincoln better.
Yep.
So, but I didn't get to see Argo, so.
Yeah. And Les Miserables, you didn't see that, I guess.
No, I've seen the play Les Miserables, so I'd be interested to see what it was like on film.
Saw it, actually, I just saw it with my mom and my son last week down in Florida. And
in the theater?
In the theater, yeah, long. I wanted to see it before the Academy Awards. Was a little surprised that the whole entire movie was sung. There's no dialogue. Everything was sung. And
wow. So it's basically like the theater production.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Okay, I didn't realize that.
It's like an opera because there's no, and you're sitting there waiting, and we were there.
I don't know if that would be my cup of tea.
Yeah, it was. You know what my take was? I mean, I think great performances. I think Hugh Jackman did a great job. I think Russell Crowe was outstanding. I never knew he could sing or do what he did.
Okay.
And Hathaway, I think, was worthy of winning an Academy Award. The music was nice, just long and if it was an hour shorter, it would have been better.
Yeah.
But I mean, we got it early to the theater, and literally we were there. Let me see, It was a 5:55 showing. Got in about 20 to 6, and sat down and left about it was about 9 o'clock.
Oh wow, that's a long time.
Almost 3.5 hours
long
in the
time.
theater, and you're ready.
Yeah. Lincoln was long, but it wasn't that long.
Yeah, that was just a little
yeah.
too long.
Yeah.
But I didn't get a chance to see the Academy Awards the other night.
Yeah, I saw pieces of it. I like tuning in for the intro because that's usually clever and well put together. And I didn't get to see too much of it. I'm usually sleeping by 10 o'clock. I'm up early, and I
don't sleep. I'm up late and I get up early, but I think I was there out with clients that night on Sunday nights. I didn't get a chance down the floor to see any part of it. But it was interesting because it was long. So everybody said it was longer than it should have been. To the whole production was, I think, was one of the longer.
Yeah, and Seth MacFarlane's so crass too. A little, you know, his humor I can only take in spurts. Some of it is funny, but it's a little too much at times.
Nice to see a local guy, Ben Affleck, getting the.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah.
Another controversial case here was this the Blade Runner, Oscar Pistorius, I guess. His
oh
name?
yeah, Pistorius in South Africa.
Pistorius,
What an awful story.
Well, I can't believe that he was released on bail. And it was a
Yeah,
high bail.
I'm not sure how their system works. I don't see that. I would hope that wouldn't happen here.
I was amazed. I mean,
I
when you look at Robert Blake, when he and OJ, I mean, they kept them.
I mean, with Pistorius, somebody who's overcome something already, so he's already overcome so much. So to have that happen is just, you know, tragedy upon tragedy is just, it's awful.
I don't know how you could kill somebody accidentally 4 times.
Yeah,
like
no.
4 times. It doesn't make sense to me. And I heard, I don't know if things have changed, the synopsis of what happened, but I guess he shot her in the bedroom once.
Oh, really?
And then 3 times when she was in
the bathroom. Okay.
But claimed he thought she was an intruder. Now,
how wouldn't you know? I mean,
but even if you wake up in the middle of the night, if you heard a noise, wouldn't you automatically think it was your wife or your daughter?
Right, or at least check.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
It doesn't really.
You pull out a gun and start shooting, and that's my wife. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's a lot of weird things in the news lately. I think, you know, the way that information is delivered now. I go back to when I was in communication school, and even earlier than that, just being being interested in it, which is one of the reasons why I took it at Suffolk. Right. You know, I remember how it used to be, where it used to have, and even on my internships, we used to have an editor, and then there would be another editor, and then there would be a managing editor, and there would be like 3 or 4 editors for each story, and then sometimes it'd be like 2 or 3 reporters, so there'd be like 4 or 5 different people working on one story. Now it's not that at all. Now it's one person doing the research, and nobody really checking it, and it's automatically, with smartphones and everything else, it's instantly out there. So, I don't know. I think that we got to look at that as a society, and is that the best way?
Breaks the news first.
That's part of it. And the most sensational. And
sensationalism, exactly. That's the whole thing.
And everything's reduced to a soundbite now.
And well, also because there's so many ways to get your news. I mean, it used to be,
newspapers was pretty much
and
it.
You looked at the Walter Cronkites of the world, and you trusted him, and now they look for young, attractive people that they don't have to pay a lot of money to.
Right.
And they're frequently, moving them around. And
and it's blogging, and it's, all these, Facebook even now is, Twitter breaks news, and so it's a new world.
Well, they were saying about the election of the Pope that because of Twitter, it's a whole different thing, and I guess they're banning the cardinals from using tweeting because this is the first time that a Pope could be elected, that it could break before.
Right.
And they claim that's how the O'Malley leak came out.
Oh, really?
Because oftentimes you never heard of a front runner.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like maybe in Vegas that had bets on.
Right. But or in London they do that too. I think. Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting, but it's a whole new world.
And communication has changed everything. So I think that's part of going back to the government piece. I think that's actually part of the problem, and part of the challenge of why things appear so partisan now is because we know information now that maybe 20 years ago an editor would have said, you know what, I'm not going to go with that. And had a better judgment of it. Exactly. Whereas now it just, there's no buffer, it just goes straight out there.
Well, they don't want to be the ones that were left out.
So I think that's part of it.
It's funny, you watch TV and then, breaking news, and sometimes you sit there riveted, to television.
And what is the breaking news?
Like nothing important. It's like, are you kidding me?
I know.
And
they love it, even like with the storm coverage. It's storm coverage, it's like, we're getting a few inches of snow here. It's not that big of a deal.
Speaking of that, what was your take on the storm? I have a couple of questions.
Take on the storm is, I think we did a great job. I think Bobby Knox did a great job with what he had. I think, one of the things I'm going to push for in this budget and in the, we're doing as a city, we're doing a CIP, a capital improvement plan, where we're going out and going to bond to buy major purchases like dump trucks and police cars and fire equipment and things like that. So one of the things I'd like to see is more resources for the DPW. I mean, he had equipment breaking down, and you know, it's not like all of the other communities around us weren't calling the same private contractors. Right. You know, so I think we did a great job with what he had.
I mean, I was thinking this year, as I never did before, about how they handled the plowing, and it was the first major storm in many years.
In many years.
So you have these trucks that are sitting there, and they're aging. And
right.
And I'm sure they're not. It's not their major priority.
Some of the trucks are 1992.
Exactly. And how many times have they gone out since '92?
Right.
And how much money do you put towards, you know, these trucks to plow?
And the nature of what they're doing.
Exactly.
I mean, they're basically scraping the pavement.
Right. And it's short-lived.
Stuff's going to break.
And it's snow too. It's snow, and
it's heavy, and
and it's amazing. So
so I think we did. You know, could we do better? Probably. But did we do awful? I don't think so either. I mean, we had a historic snowfall.
What do you think about the governor closing the roads? I mean, that was.
Yeah, that was a debate going back and forth too. I mean, I don't really have that much of an issue with it because to me it goes to public. He was kind of stating the obvious anyways. Right. I mean, most people weren't going to go out anyways.
Right.
So I mean, it was a little. You know, you could roll your eyes a little bit because it's kind of like, look, Gov, we're not going anywhere anyways. Right. So, but at the same time, if it's about keeping people safe and letting people know, I don't really have that much of an issue with it. You know, where it was kept on so long, maybe you could argue it should have been shorter or whatever. But
to me, I was snowbound. I was stranded. I was in Memphis, Tennessee, and I couldn't get a flight. I ended up driving, and it was a nightmare. A few days for me. But going through Connecticut. You know, I got stuck in New York. I'm spending the one night in New York, a day and a half in New York. Left the city. Connecticut was horribly treated. The roads weren't treated well at all.
So you couldn't get through.
And they're on one lane on 84 and 91.
And you were driving through it?
Well, the next day.
Oh, okay.
And once we hit the Mass Pike and we saw the Massachusetts sign, it just was amazing.
It was great.
Like somebody hand shoveled the roadways, which was great. So I mean, kudos for that. I guess we're winding down here now, but it's interesting. We were like all over the map.
We did a lot of stuff.
I came in from a flight, so I'm even a little flighty from, you know, usually I'm a little more direct with questions. We have 1 minute, Frank. I want to thank Frank Petruccio and Ed in the control room, and City Council at Large, David Arcangeloe, who also is on Around Town on, when's that going to be?
Yeah, we'll have to have you on Around Town. We just had Steve Crosby. Maybe we'll do one in a couple of weeks. Maybe we'll set up for that.
Yeah, happy to do it. And thank you for coming here. And anytime, and we can bring up some more controversial issues.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Take care, and good luck with the road race on the 23rd.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'll be calling you again to see if we can get some more rolls.
Happy to do it.
All right, great.
Good night, Malden. Thank you. We still got some more time, though. There we go.
There we go.
See
Get out of the dock and into the zone.
How come I never get my